Produced by the Cleveland Sound Radio Network. Here is the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show, hosted by Glenn Moore and Steve Guy.
Welcome to the first episode of This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Glenn Moore, alongside my co-host, as we will delve into wrestling, storylines, pay-per-views, Raw, and I'm proud to say that I'll be talking about this not only to myself, but to Steve Guy, a big wrestling fan. It's kind of hard to find a wrestling fan in Cleveland that's willing to dedicate a half an hour of his life every week to talk wrestling.
I mean, I dedicate 3 hours of my life every Monday to wrestling. So, you know, and then the hours in between looking at rumor roundups and SmackDown and all that great stuff. So, I mean, a half an hour talking with you, Glenn, is no big deal.
We'll recap Raw. We'll recap pay-per-views. We'll talk about the biggest storylines, the biggest news in professional wrestling. And we also will have a guest on each week. And this week's guest is none other than Cleveland native, a guy that lived in Cleveland, is a Browns fan, Indians fan. WB Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler will be joining us. A good half an hour interview with the King. We'll talk about the Browns win over the Titans on Sunday, being there in Tennessee for the game, and also we'll talk about John Cena. We'll talk about everybody, The Rock coming back last night. He has some quotes about that. So a lot of great stuff from Jerry the King Lawler later on in the show. But first, before we get into Jerry, The Rock came back last night on Raw.
Got chills thinking about it.
It saved the show because we'll talk about this as well. You had Kathy Lee, and I think her name is Hoda.
Hoda Kotb.
It was terrible segment. And I almost turned off the show. I was like, I can't watch any of this.
And you didn't like them surfing with the rosebuds, huh?
I am not a rosebud. I am a lemon. Big time lemon. Not a I never will be a rosebud. The Rock saved the show, and that's the biggest topic is The Rock. I still got goosebumps, and there's been fewer moments recently on Raw that makes you jump out of your seat, and The Rock coming out unexpectedly, it makes you do that.
That's why he is still to this day the most electrifying man in sports entertainment right there.
He's a guy that, if he's on the show for 5 minutes, it makes the show that much better.
You're like, oh my God, this show was a classic. You don't know anything else that happened to that show. 3 hours, and all you remember is 5 minutes because The Rock showed up.
And the one thing that kind of sticks out when The Rock does come on is how he makes everybody else that is on WWE programming every week, how much under him they are. Yeah. Even John Cena. John Cena does not get the same type of reaction, even with the boos and the cheers.
Right.
When he comes out, that pop is not even on the same level as The Rock.
It's nuts. That's like, you know what it reminded me of was WrestleMania. You know, we were both there this year, and it's like you're watching, and then there's Hogan, and you heard rumors about Austin, and Austin comes out, you're like, oh my God, this is already the most amazing thing I've ever seen. You know, at WrestleMania, and then The Rock shows up, and you had no idea that was going to happen then either. It reminded me so much of that, but it's so much better because obviously with Raw, it's not on pay-per-view.
Right.
You don't have to buy the WWE Network for $9.99 to watch it, and so many more people see it. I think that makes it that much more amazing when it's that live event like that.
And it kind of brings back the whole what's going to happen next on Raw because you bring back The Rock. There's no build-up. There's no live via satellite. He's actually there in the flesh. And as a surprise, I think it's going to bring back some viewers that have stopped watching because of, I think, the crappy segments, the crappy story writing. Is that, okay, if The Rock can come back, who else can come back? You know, who else is going to come back?
Which is funny you mentioned that because there are rumors about a potential Stone Cold comeback down the line.
His podcast, he mentioned it.
Yeah.
The Steve Austin show about getting back in shape for one more match. I steal a line from Christian. One more match. I would love it. WrestleMania 31, Stone Cold Steve Austin, wrestling. I don't know who would take on. Who would be?
My theory is Sting. I know that seems out there. But why not? Two of the biggest names to carry professional wrestling, you know, in the late '90s. Why not? I mean, why not?
I don't see. I would prefer Sting, Undertaker. If Undertaker can come back and Taker can come back and perform, I think you have Sting and Taker because you can have so much for a month and a half of build-up with those two guys, with Sting not in the Raptors, probably not, but not coming down. We all know what happens with that. But then you have Hogan, the Taker there too. Yeah. The whole dark side versus dark side. I mean, that would be a perfect storyline to do.
Yeah.
Austin, you have Sting out of the equation.
Who do you throw him against then?
Jeez. Cena?
Yeah, but I think that's the easy pick, right? Because you already had Cena and The Rock.
That's easy money, though. That would draw.
At that point, that's like Randy Orton versus, all of the legends. But it's
Cena as the I think if you have Steve Austin versus Cena, you build it up for 2 months. That would be great because obviously Austin's going to get all the cheering, and all old school guys are going to love Austin. Then you have Cena.
Could you see it as a tag team match where maybe the Authority storyline continues? I mean, that's a long continuation of it, but going into maybe it's not even WrestleMania. Maybe we're overthinking this.
So what? Cena and Austin together versus?
I don't know if it's Cena, but maybe it's a build to the Royal Rumble, and it's Austin and Dean Ambrose versus the Authority, or I don't know, something at that level.
I think it has to have a big name. What about Austin and The Rock?
Go
at it again.
Because
The Rock is in great shape. Always will be in great shape. And I think he will be able to work with Austin. Can Austin go 20 minutes main event style, with knocking up that ring rust? He's going to have a couple warm-up matches.
He looked in good shape, physically speaking, when he was at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
He looked pretty solid. I was like, man, I don't remember the last time that looked at Steve Austin. I was like, oh, yeah, he doesn't look like he's just been drinking beer all day.
Never say never, though. I mean, if Stone Cold wants to come back and he's cleared medically, that's going to be a huge draw. And The Rock came back for, 3 years? Right. A 2-year wrestling, 1 year came back as, like you mentioned before with Stone Cold and Hogan. But you have Stone Cold come out and wrestle, whoever it is, that's going to be main event status right there.
Well, it has to be. Just thinking about it, I have so many ideas in my head now. Now I just want to see it. Man, but I don't know. Back to The Rock, I guess. What do you do from here? Is that a one-time thing?
I think it is. Rusev is on his way up to being a main eventer.
You don't put him in a segment with The Rock, otherwise, right?
Correct. Yeah, you don't waste The Rock on Rusev if you don't feel Rusev is going to be someone big in the coming months.
Yeah, and of course you had the Hamburglar that used to be in there with The Rock too, though. So I mean, I don't know, but the
thing is, though, it worked perfectly because you have The Rock defending America. Yeah. One, and you have Rusev going against, facing off against The Rock, one of the iconic figures in professional wrestling. So it makes him look big. Right. And Rusev didn't take a rock bottom, no people's elbow. It doesn't make him look weak.
Right.
He gets knocked out of the ring.
Yeah.
It keeps The Rock looking good.
Yeah.
And obviously it makes a big pop, and also Rusev, stays looking like he's a big guy. I mean, I don't think you have a match between those two. I think it's a one-time deal to kind of maybe push Rusev a little bit more because WWE needs some main eventers. And I love Rollins, I love Ambrose,
sure.
Don't like Cena, but I think they need some other guys. And I think Rusev, he's improved. His wrestling has improved so much. And you have Lana, which is great to look at for 5-10 minutes during the show when she comes out.
I'm okay with
it. I think it was great for The Rock and great for Rusev. And when we have Jerry on, and he mentioned when the Rock's music hit, it could have been someone else coming out like the Big Show. I'm glad they didn't go that route. I'm totally glad.
I will say this about watching that, and I watched it back again early this morning, because I thought, maybe that's just the way I saw it last night. But as big as Rusev is, did you not feel like when The Rock was standing there, like, man, The Rock is just huge anymore compared to Rusev? Rusev's a big guy.
Yeah.
And then I see The Rock, and I'm like, wow, he just almost dwarfs Rusev.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Rusev can be a main eventer. He fits the bill of the old school big guy that Vince McMahon always pushed.
Yeah.
Back in the late '90s, always the big guys on steroids. I'm not saying Rusev's on steroids, but that's what the model body of a main eventer looked like.
Which is why you started seeing a Roman Reigns push.
Yeah,
naturally,
dude. All right, Roman Reigns. That 40-second interview was probably the worst via satellite interview ever. It seemed like he was reading cue cards, and every time they changed the cue card, it was and that was it. And obviously, it looked like it was recorded because Michael Cole didn't ask any questions.
Right.
He led into the interview, and then Reigns was on for 40 seconds. But if that's the guy you're going to be pushing as
there was no point to even having that, I don't think.
If he's going to be the face of WWE for years to come, that's not a good sign.
He's got work to do.
Yeah, because Cena can work a mic.
Absolutely.
That's what, wrestling ability is questionable, he can work a mic, work a crowd. Roman Reigns he fits the mold of a main eventer, a guy that can carry. Obviously, he has some of the blood of The Rock in him too.
Right.
He has a little bit of charisma when he was the Shield, but speaking is awful.
That's why he was so good in the Shield, because you had 3 guys.
Yeah.
Not one guy had to carry it. But I think even back then you saw how awesome Ambrose and Rollins were on the mic compared to Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
But I mean,
small doses of Reigns worked out well.
Exactly.
He won't be able to go out by himself like a Cena and be able to talk to the crowd and get reaction because it would bomb. And if that's the face of WWE, they're going to be pushing for the next 5-6 years. It's not good, and which means we'll see a lot more John Cena. No. But that 40-second clip of him live via satellite.
Stone Cold Steve Austin's coming back.
Gotta have Stone Cold come back. Gotta have Stone Cold. All right, Kathy Lee and Hoda. If we can wipe that from our memories, that would be great, because that was probably the worst segment. And there's been some bad segments lately on Raw. That was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I gotta wonder, were they drunk before they came out?
They usually are on the Today Show. That's always the ongoing joke, is that they just sit there and drink wine. So I don't know. At this point, it's what they start filming that. When did they come on? 8:30, almost 9 o'clock when they came on, or was it later?
It was. I think it was. Yeah, like 9:15. Yeah,
it could have been half in the bag at that point.
I'm sure. Yeah,
no problem.
What benefit? I mean, okay, I get it. They want to push the breast cancer awareness. You can do that through the wrestlers.
Yeah.
You don't need this cross promotion. John Cena goes on their show earlier in the day. They come on wrestling show, but
it just popped in my head what it might be. Did they air WrestleMania on NBC yet?
I'm not sure.
They do it once a year. They air the taping of WrestleMania.
But if that's the case, then we didn't hear about it.
Yeah,
they barely even promoted the.
I saw a commercial at one point, but it's that whole cross promotion guy of NBC, I guess.
But
I don't know.
does it? Okay, what middle-aged drunk housewife is going to watch wrestling on Monday night?
Yeah,
they're not going to bring any of that audience over to Monday, and nobody from Raw is going to be like, "Oh, these two, I'm going to watch it, whatever it on during the day." Yeah. Absolutely not. It made no sense to have these people on. If it was because John Cena was on their show, I'm pretty sure you can skip the whole interview portion and whatever, but it wasn't good. And the whole, hey, she got a free plug for her own wine, Kathy Lee, so she got some free plug for her wine. I mean, I don't see how Raw benefited from having him on.
It didn't. I think that we should once again apologize to not only the Russian people for what happened on Raw, but everybody else around the world as well for that segment.
Hopefully it doesn't. And I think next week they're going to be in Atlanta, and the guest host of Raw, I don't even know her name, but she is a Real Housewife of Atlanta from that show.
They always do stuff like that, I guess.
And I know it's for October breast cancer. They're going to have women come on and kind of promote, even though Kathy Lee and Hoda didn't really do that much last night. It wasn't really about that more than them selling wine or breaking bottles over their asses. But every week we're going to have a segment like this, and we already have a ton of diva matches. We had 3 diva matches the last 2 weeks.
It's a lot of diva action.
This total diva stuff. That show I think is killing Raw.
There's got to be something in the contract with E to push these women. I'm not saying that they're bad wrestlers, because some of them, and we talked before, like AJ Lee, she's solid.
Yeah.
Paige, solid. But man, even going back to weeks ago, did they push the whole Bella? I mean, Brie and Stephanie. How much of that did we have to watch? And now it's still carrying over, and it's like, it goes back to watching Roman Reigns in that interview.
Yeah.
Some of them could be fantastic wrestlers, but the mic skills just not there yet too. To have the segments without the wrestling, I mean, we could do without that. I don't know. Would you? Sometimes I wonder, do I rather watch that and them talking trash on each other and not very well, or maybe go back to watching Kathy Lee and Hoda come back on Raw?
Let's make Raw 2 hours.
Yeah.
Bring it back to 2 hours so we can eliminate replays of what happened in the first hour, and then also these terrible segments that have bunnies bulls, alligators, and then special guest hosts that don't even care. And Kathy Lee hates wrestling because she wrote in her book back in 1992 that she hates wrestling. And Rick Rude came on and was hitting on her, and she didn't like it, and she thought wrestling was stupid and whatnot. And you bring her on the show, and she acts like, "Oh, I love this."
Yeah, I think that she probably straightened that out because
I'm sure
Rick Rude on, she probably thought that it was just a bunch of womenizers in wrestling, and then she realized what she was married to in Frank Gifford, as that eventually came out not too long after, and she probably crap, I wish I didn't write that. So she's coming around.
One part of Raw that I love to watch, not because I'm friends with them and I want to name and drop him a lot during the podcast, is The Miz. Name drop him a lot, and him and Sandow. Comedic gold.
Oh my God. It's hysterical.
The way the Sandow mimics what the Miz does, especially yesterday when they had the fruit basket with Kane, and Sandow was doing all the gestures and mouthing the words. That is probably the best comedy, except for Ambrose, on Raw right now.
Every time the Miz loses and gets thrown out of the ring, and you see Sandow just right up against the side barrier, just with it. Oh my God, it's hilarious. And again, we end up talking to Jerry. The whole Mizdow thing and the Ziggler and our Ziggler match.
Yeah.
Just one of my favorite things to watch so far this year in terms of laughing at Raw.
Yeah.
I talked to. Obviously, as you know, I'm friends with Chris Van Vliet here in town, and constantly every week, one of the things we text about the next day after Raw is, oh my gosh, did you see Miz and Mizdow this week? It's just so great. It's genius. Whoever thought of that's fantastic.
It's amazing. And ultimately, it ends with Miz going against Sandow. Somehow,
I guess.
And I love Mike and I love Sandow, and I think both are great workers. And Sandow has gotten he was off TV for so much. He was basically a jobber for almost a year. He comes out. He's
betraying everybody else.
Yeah, and everybody. He did everybody.
He was LeBron in Miami.
He was a lumberjack in a lumberjack match. Yeah. He has come out to show more what he can do, and he's a great wrestler, I think. And I think him and Zack Ryder are two guys I think are great wrestlers or aren't being used the right way up until Sandow. And have Miz versus Sandow in a pay-per-view somewhere down the line would be terrific. And I think you have Sandow still being Miz's stunt double, but him going against the Miz, somehow having that go on.
It's like when the Undertaker went against the fake Undertaker.
Exactly. That would be great. That would be good to watch. And I think that's one of the other parts of Raw other than Ambrose is Miz and Mizdow and them doing their whole comedy routine. It's great. It's entertaining. Yeah. Unlike the rest of the segments on Raw.
When Ziggler came out with those the pictures from Miz's phone, and then you find out that it was Sandow who takes them. I mean, it's great. I do love that on Raw. It's fantastic.
Before we get to Jerry, our interview with Jerry the King Lawler, what are we going to do? What are you going to do with Randy Orton? This is a guy I think is a great wrestler.
Yeah, he is.
He's a little bit bland right now, and you have Kane being corporate Kane. These two guys are going to be Hall of Famers. They have held major championships, and I almost feel like they're kind of a improved version of Briscoe and Patterson doing the Authority's dirty work, and I think they more respectable than that. They deserve more.
I think Randy Orton is putting together some of the best in-ring action that we have seen, and that's saying a lot because he's been, quite frankly, he's been phenomenal since he came in, and he was in his early 20s. At this point, he's mid-30s, and just still cranking out fantastic matches. At any point in time, I think the mark of a superstar that you love watching, even if he's a heel, is when he has that one move when you're like, oh my God, this can come out of nowhere at any time, and you're excited about it. He does that with the RKO.
Yep.
You never know when he's going to pull it out, and just to be able to do that is great. You have to see him turning at this point, right? He's getting frustrated with the Authority.
Yeah.
There's got to be something where he all of a sudden he goes back at the Authority. I don't know. I don't see him teaming with a Dean Ambrose.
I can see him taking on if Ambrose and Cena go and do their own little thing, and maybe Rollins and Orton going at each other, because that could be some great matches, some great moves with Rollins and Orton, and like you said, the RKO midair, Rollins taking one of those. That would be a pretty good match. But the thing is, though, Orton, I love him more as a bad guy.
Oh, he's great as a bad
But the
guy.
thing is, is he going to split off and still be a heel, or is he going to be now a bona fide good guy? It's hard.
I think, and this may not be out of the realm, but it could be, because you have the Rollins and Ambrose back and forth with the Money in the Bank briefcase. And I think this whole deal about, Ambrose is going to keep stopping him. Maybe it's not Ambrose. Maybe this is where he takes out Ambrose or whatever, and then all of a sudden in a pay-per-view we see a match, Rollins cashes it in, and it's Randy Orton that just drops him right there, and Rollins doesn't win because Randy Orton drops the RKO.
That would be good.
That'd be amazing.
That would be great. But and even Kane too. It's what are you going to do with Kane? Is he bring it back as Demon Kane?
Yeah, he's in the twilight.
We recycle that over and over. That it kind of loses its luster after so many times you bring back Demon Kane.
Yeah, but I don't know how you get rid of him now at this point.
You can't.
Yeah, they have him team up with Daniel Bryan again.
Really quick, I love how they. No. I love how they bring Joey Mercury and Jamie Noble as a new Briscoe and Patterson. They're getting a little bit more involved. I like that. The Stooges. Bring back the Stooges. That's great because they fit that mold of they were wrestlers. Now they're behind the scenes and they can screw up all they want and be blamed for certain stuff and kind of get that heat from Stephanie and Triple H.
Yeah, that's a good time. But Triple H could never do that with anybody in the Clique. You've never seen Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash out there doing it.
Or X-Pac coming back, fetching Triple H coffee.
He might be a good stooge.
There's no way that Triple H lets that happen. All right, let's go to our interview with Jerry the King Lawler, and we'll talk everything about John Cena. We'll talk about what happened last night on Raw with The Rock, and him with commentating with JBL and Michael Cole and everything that happens on Monday Night Raw. So here's our interview with Jerry the King Lawler.
The Cleveland Sound Radio Network, a variety of radio shows available on demand whenever you want to listen. CLEsound.com.
Our first guest on the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show, I'm your host Glenn Moore with Steve Guy, is Jerry the King Lawler, a WWE Hall of Famer, a big fan of Cleveland sports, and a guy you can hear every Monday night on Monday Night Raw. He's been a commentator for so many years. But Jerry, you were in Tennessee in Nashville for the Browns-Titans game. I'm gonna get your thoughts on that. You're in the sidelines.
I was, this past Sunday I was there, all decked out in my Browns gear, orange, all the way down to orange shoes, and it was a I don't know, I really don't know how to describe it. It was great to finally be there when the time expired and the Browns had won, but literally throughout the game, it was for me at least. The first half was such a miserable experience. My girlfriend Lauren and I were sitting there at halftime when it was 28-10. I just if I could we had come over on a shuttle bus from the hotel. I said, if I could get to my car, I would just leave and drive back to Memphis. I mean, that's how down I was. And, of course, you're sitting right in the middle of all these Tennessee Titan fans, and they're all asking me, hey, I thought you're from Memphis, Tennessee. Why aren't you a Titan fan? And, what are you doing pulling for the Browns? And so anyway, it was tough. And even, once this comeback started, I mean, I don't know. I just felt like, and I'm afraid, I'm sad to think that I may have that mentality that so many of the Browns fans have nowadays, or have had in the past, but I just didn't think they were going to pull it off. Even when they scored the first touchdown and then the second touchdown of the second half, and all I was thinking was, well, at least maybe it'll look respectable. It's not going to be a complete blowout. But then finally, when they blocked the punt, got the safety, and that little 2-point swing there was the first time I looked at the scoreboard and I said, now wait a minute, that 2 points makes a difference to where, if things go exactly right, the Browns could take a 1-point lead at some point in this game, But every time, when the Titans kept getting the ball back, every time in the first half, they scored seemed like every time they had the ball. So I just kept thinking one of these times they're going to score and put it completely out of reach. But of course it didn't happen. And finally, when the Browns scored the final touchdown to take that 1-point lead, yeah, I jumped up, I cheered, it was great. But then still, I looked at the clock, and I just had that sinking feeling that this is going to be another one of those games where it goes down to the last play, and the Browns are going to lose on a field goal, And I literally, I couldn't really enjoy myself until the time finally ran out. And then I just looked at Lauren and said, we won. We really won this thing, you know. And then it was great. Oh, it was so awesome walking out of that stadium among all of those, Tennessee Titans fans. As a matter of fact, as we were walking in the stadium, a lot of the Titans fans were tailgating. And this one guy, they were wearing all blue and everything. And this one guy even had his beard dyed blue, and he's sitting on the back of his pickup truck, and he saw us walking in, and he says, well, there's Jerry the King Lawler, and I see he's wearing the dog shirt. He said, well, I'm afraid your dog's going to have fleas after this game's over, King. And so anyway, we were just hoping that this guy would still be there on the way out. And sure enough, he was sitting on the back of his tailgate. And, we got to walk past and look over at him and said, looked like those fleas bit you guys in the butt. And so it was just, it was a good feeling. It was great. And got to go down thanks to my buddy, the equipment manager, Brad Mellon. We got to go down on the field before the game and get that really up close and that sensation of all the players down there, and before the game it just felt so energetic and felt so great, and I thought, man, the Browns are just going to go in here and I thought just blow Tennessee away today. And then, man, as soon as it started, it just went the other way, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But all's well that ends well. It was great.
Yeah, Jerry, here in Cleveland, they're already starting to call them the Cardiac Kids 2.0. Which, I mean, obviously with your history, you got to be at this point now after watching that game thinking, I really wish these Cleveland athletes would stop trying to get my heart to race so much and stop, right?
Yeah, I've already died once from a heart attack. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, especially these Cleveland guys doing it to you. Get them out of here already.
Right. Well, I'm telling you, it was one of those. It was almost different. I guess the ending was similar, but it was almost different in the fact that, I think everybody realized that no team in NFL history had ever come back on the road from that large a deficit.
Especially
so
the Browns.
I just didn't. I never really got my hopes up until it was over. So it wasn't that, with the Cardiac Kids. I mean, I was at games with, watching Brian Sipe, and it was. And maybe this will come with this team in time, but at that point, you always had hope, because you knew that you always felt that some kind of way these guys are going to pull it out at the end. But we've been through so many years of suffering here in Cleveland that it's almost like it's hard to have that hope, because it's been in the past where some kind of way it always gets pulled away from us at the end, But Sunday was so different, and it was awesome.
Whatever keeps Johnny Manziel off the field, I'll be happy. If Brian Hurt can continue to play well and Manziel is off the field, the Browns have a better chance to win.
Glenn, I cannot agree with you on that. I mean, I like.
Really?
I just think that there was a couple of points, a couple of times in there that I thought, and of course, hey, I love Hoyer. He's playing awesome, but I just think that it would be neat to have just a couple of packages where Johnny Manziel can come out and be. I mean, some kind of gimmick play or something throughout the game. I think fans love that. I think it would give everybody a little shot in the arm, whether it worked or not. And I look forward to seeing him in there some.
Jerry, I disagree with you. I cannot agree with you. And I think bringing Manziel in for his own little package, I think it disrupts what Hoyer and the receivers have for timing. And I think I just don't see Manziel being a Tim Tebow kind of player. If he is going to be Tim Tebow, I hope he is, because he's going to be out of the league.
Yeah, Jerry, I think that's your wrestling background coming to play there. Just wanted to see gimmicks, That's all.
Well, you are. That may be it. That may be it. But I mean, hey, who did? Come on, you're gonna tell me that you didn't love the play? Where Manziel went to the sideline and then took off and caught the pass.
Oh, that was great.
That was illegal. It's an illegal play.
Yeah, but it was still amazing. That's like, it's just like wrestling. The referee didn't see it. It was fine.
And exactly. It's not cheating unless you get caught.
Yeah.
Boy.
And the other thing is like, you can say it's illegal, but the referees did not call the play illegal. That wasn't why the play was called back. It was because of illegal formation or motion or something. It wasn't because it was an illegal play.
In the words of Mark Cuban, all referees suck. All right, Jerry, moving on.
No.
How you feeling? I know it's been, I obviously don't remind you because it's been a couple years since what transpired on Monday Night Raw. How are you feeling? Are you doing indie wrestling, and could we see you in a WWE ring here shortly?
Well, I do. You know what? I do I do a lot of wrestling, actually. At least, usually one match a week, and sometimes two. Indie shows. We have some shows here in my hometown of Memphis. I wrestled Scott Steiner last month. I wrestled. Let's see who all. I mean, just Dangerous Doug Gilbert this past month. We had a big reunion with a bunch of guys like Hall of Famers Hanson, Jimmy Valiant coming back to Memphis, and Coco Beware, and the Rock and Roll Express, guys that had made their name here, and so we had a big show here last month and wrestled on that. And yeah, I mean, I wrestle a lot of places. You know what? I'm just not pushing it. I don't want to be the guy. I've never been the guy that goes to, which I probably should be, but I've never gone to the powers that be there and say, hey, let me wrestle. Let me have a match with The Miz. Or, I mean, the match I had with The Miz a couple of years ago on my birthday was, I had no clue that was going to happen. I just got there and they said, hey, you're going to wrestle tonight. I mean, it wasn't a situation, and it's never been where I've gone and said, let me have a match. And so, I mean, if I think that they know, that I've been cleared by the doctors to get back in the ring. They know that I've been wrestling a lot of places. They just signed a Ring of Honor guy not too long ago. You know who I'm talking about, Glenn?
Yeah, Kevin Stein.
Kevin Stein.
Yeah.
And I had the last match with Kevin Stein before he started down at NXT. He started at NXT the very next day. And, and when I got to Monday Night Raw, Triple H and different guys were asking me, hey, what'd you think of him? How was he? And so, they know I'm out there, and they know I'm available. So I'll just wait for the phone to ring and have them call me.
Knowing that, Jerry, knowing that you're not the type of guy to go to them and say, hey, put me in the ring. With them, they know you're competing, but if you're not pressuring it, do you think they'll ever go that route of giving you back in the ring, or do you think they'll, hold off on that?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I honestly, Glenn, and I know a lot of people may not believe. I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
I don't worry about it. It's not something that's just on the top of my agenda that I'm sitting here saying, man, I want to go and have some more matches in the WWE. It's I'm perfectly content doing what I'm doing there now.
Yeah, I will say, Jerry, it's watching the three of you guys, you, Michael Cole, and JBL there on Monday Night Raw. It does just look like you are having a blast. And I mean, it's great to see. I feel like watching every week, there's at least one or two moments where you guys just, not to say that you lose sight, but you almost do lose sight and just making each other crack up. And I think that just makes it a lot of fun for the viewers to watch.
Well, you know what? At the beginning of every show, right before we go on the air, Vince McMahon has the opportunity, if he wants to, he can communicate with all three of the commentators. He can remind us of something or make a comment to us. And without fail, every single Monday night, the first words out of his mouth, the last thing we hear before we go on the air is Vince McMahon says, "Hey, you guys have fun out there." And I feel like that's part of my job. I mean, if we can have fun, I feel like the people at home are having fun as well, and that's what the show. It's entertainment. Let's face it, and you want people to have a good time while they're watching it and enjoy it. And so, if and I have in the past gone through a whole show where I thought at the end, that wasn't very much fun. That happened occasionally. So it is always better to be out there and having a good time.
Now, Jerry,
and speaking of that, and I know you're about to ask me about this, Glenn. Talking about having a good time. What about Monday night on Raw when out of the blue The Rock shows up?
Did you have an idea that The Rock was going to be there? Come out and I had no Michael Cole, JBL. None of us had no idea whatsoever. I don't think anybody. I don't know if it just wasn't a situation. I believe that The Rock may have been in New York to do some kind of appearance or something with Derek Jeter. Right.
Yeah,
and I think he just showed up after the show went on the air, and they threw him out there. And like when his music hit, and Rusev was in the ring, and of course they're about to have this rivalry with Rusev and the Big Show going on. So when The Rock's music hit, I looked at Michael Cole. I was confused. I thought, oh, they got to be doing something where, because the Big Show is not able to, he's taking the sensitivity training. I think the Big Show is going to come out and act like he's The Rock or something, right? And then, of course, suddenly it was The Rock. It was amazing.
In this day and age of social media and everybody on Twitter, especially backstage, and you don't know, a worker from the arena could tweet something out that they hid The Rock so well, even moments leading up to The Rock coming out, that, nobody knew about it and nobody knew that he was even in the arena.
No, absolutely nobody knew, and that's what made it so special. And oh my gosh, I mean, it just it was just so profound that, when he got in the ring, the presence and the charisma that The Rock has, I mean, he is like no other WWE superstar. I mean, this guy just brings something to the table that is a one of a kind. And I just sit there when The Rock is in the ring. I am enjoying it as probably more than the fans fans at home watching or whatever. I mean, I'm just such a huge fan of his work that, I just sat there so mesmerized by that whole segment last night. I thought it was awesome. Did
you, Jerry, he had a couple choice words that resulted in some solid chants there. You didn't find yourself almost going along with the fans, did you? And Derek Jeter, and then there was another one that
we can't say on the air.
What was the other one?
A certain curse word choice.
All right, we can say it. Our producer's giving it. Asshole. How about that?
Oh my gosh!
It's been a while since I heard one of those chants on Raw.
I love our New York audiences. I mean, whether they were there, the Meadowlands or Madison Square Garden or whatever. I mean, they are some of the most vocal crowds that we have anywhere in the country, and they always come up with some great chants. I remember, last night, what was going on? Oh my gosh, the match with the alligator and the
bunny
bull, El Torito. I mean, yeah. and the whole audience starts chanting what a lot of people were thinking. This is stupid. I mean,
for the kids,
you can always count on the New York fans, especially, to voice their opinion.
Jerry, and speaking of, watching WWE Network for $9.99, and you guys tell us every single week, $9.99. You watch some good matches, and you get to relive some great moments, including yourself on commentary. And going back to the late '90s, you were a bad guy. You were able to spit some jokes and spit some some at the good guys and spit at their expense. But do you find yourself maybe biting your tongue a little bit, maybe wanting to say something, but hey, that's not you. That's not who you are now, especially being kind of a good commentator?
Well, no, you know what, Glenn, I really don't, because I still, as you know, say a lot of those same things, but I just say them about the bad guy instead of about the fan favorite, and it still gets the point across. Last night I said something about, oh gosh, Bo Dallas was out there, and I said to JBL, I said, and this was a line that I used years ago on somebody else, of one of the good guys. Then I said, JBL, do you know the difference in Bo Dallas and a pothole? And he said, no, what? And I said, I would swerve to avoid a pothole. And so, I mean, so you still get to say that, some of the same lines and some of the same things that I did before. It's just a different opponent in the ring.
I know it's a PG era, but I was talking to Steve before the show, and it seems like you guys are being, led on to maybe a little more jokes or a little more attitude, a little edgy, especially with the whole situation that Seth Rollins had a vibrator in his briefcase too. I mean, that's an attitude era kind of moment.
I'm just waiting for the week that Puppies comes back.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, I said Puppies just a couple of weeks ago. I just don't do it as I mean, I go back and watch some of the shows on the network from the Attitude Era, and I just think, oh my God, how did I ever get away with saying some of the stuff that I said? I mean, it was so far over the line that it was just crazy. And the cool thing is, so many people are watching the network and watching the Attitude Era shows, and every day I'll get text messages or tweets, especially tweets of people that have just seen me or heard me say something, just totally outrageous, and they'll tweet it out, and I'll look at that and go, oh my God, did I really say that? Did I really get away with saying those things at that time? But it was always sort of a double entendre. You know, it was always a lot of things that were just not come right out and said. It was just sort of implied. One of the things, I was actually running for the office of mayor of Memphis in 2009 or something like that. Or maybe no, the first time I guess it was before that. It was like 2005 or 2004 or something. Anyway, and that was at the time when The Godfather would come to the ring, and he would have this group of girls known as the Ho Train.
Yeah, Ho Train.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, somebody tweeted that I said, let's see, how did it go? I said I was hoping to get the Ho vote down in Memphis, but I didn't because hoes don't care who gets in.
Jerry, that is funny you mentioned that because that is my favorite joke, and I even mentioned that to the guys before the show. Hoes don't vote; they don't care who gets in.
Yeah, that was it. Hoes don't vote; they don't care who gets in. I mean, how on earth how did I even think of to say something like that? I mean, it's like the times have changed so much now. That would never even cross my mind to say something like that.
Do you feel that?
But you know what? I mean, it's like that was one of the great things about The Rock coming back last night. I mean, The Rock is, I think he's still in that. I think The Rock is still in the Attitude Era mode when he comes. He's not here very often. But when he comes back, he's still in that mode. I mean, what about him talking about the Moscow Moose Knuckle last night?
That was great. His shorts up to his nipples.
or the dressing like a Soviet streetwalker.
Yeah.
Awesome.
At least he told her she was beautiful.
I mean, what is Vince? What is Vince going to do? The Rock can say something like that. I mean, what is that? You can't go back. You can't come back on the show. I mean,
yeah, he's done kid movies. It's fine.
But you know what? I mean, you don't have any problem with something like that because The Rock is so entertaining. Nobody is going to complain on Twitter or anything. Anywhere, call up the WWE and complain about The Rock saying something. I mean, it's just not going to happen. The Rock he's untouchable. He's great. I mean, everybody is entertained by The Rock.
Jerry, Brock Lesnar is the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, but we haven't seen him that much in recent weeks, and he is the champion. How do you feel about a champion not on the show every week? And as of right now, he doesn't have a match at Hell in a Cell. Well, you know what?
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, there's always. I think sometimes some of our superstars can suffer from overexposure. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's necessarily great to be on the show every single week. I mean, it's the old saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I mean, you can be seen too much to where the fans are just, it's not anything special to see it. And I think that's the situation with the World Heavyweight Champion. I remember back in the territory days before I was with the WWE, that was the way wrestling was. The World Champion only came around to the different territories once or maybe twice a year. I mean, it wasn't like on a regular basis at all, and you would maybe get do a promo for the upcoming match, and then you had to pay your money to go see him live at the arena, and then he would defend his championship, and then he would move on the next week to some other territory, and whatever city you were in, say for instance Cleveland, like if it was back in the day of Ric Flair being the world champion with the NWA or something, he would come to Cleveland maybe once, and you wouldn't see him again for 6 months. And so I don't have a problem with that situation with Brock Lesnar at all. I think he's, especially of course when you got Paul Heyman out there as his advocate talking for him, there's his presence is always felt, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just to prove your point even more, Jerry, this might sound like sarcasm, but I can't think of any superstar that the fans have turned on that they've seen week in and week out and week in and week out for the last few years that suddenly now some of them hate. I don't think that ever happens, Jerry. Maybe to one guy.
Well, you know what? I mean, it's so funny. It's a lot of times people will look and say, "Oh, this wrestler has changed, or he's not the same as he was." That's usually not the case. It's usually the fans that change, and it's their opinions of somebody that change. And I always harken back. I look back to way in the past, but the first time I really saw and realized that it was the fans that changed was back with Muhammad Ali when he started his career as a world champion boxer, and as Cassius Clay. I mean, he was despised by the fans. He was so cocky. He was so arrogant. But then, as the time went on, and he kept winning and winning, it's like, hey, am I going to continue to support these guys that are going against this guy who wind up being losers, or am I going to jump on the bandwagon and show some respect for this guy and start cheering for him because he's going to win? And I think that's what happens to a lot of the guys, to a lot of the superstars as well. The fans get a different opinion of them after. I mean, just look at like the Shield guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, hey, Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, they haven't wrestled any differently than when they were before. When the fans were booing them on every move they made. But now the fans have changed their opinions of these guys, and now they're big fan favorites. Speaking
of fans, fans, when John Cena comes out, it's the kids and the ladies are cheering and the guys are booing. And sometimes the boos most of the time, the boos are louder than the cheers. Will we ever see John Cena turn full-out heel, or do you think that he has too much invested into WWE has too much invested in merchandising and also with Make-A-Wish Foundation, with the kids, that a Cena heel turn would never happen?
Trust me, in the WWE, never say never. Our motto has been for years and years and years, anything can happen in the WWE, and usually does. So I would never say never. But the one thing you're so right about John Cena is that, and to me personally, when I hear those "you suck" chants or the guys that boo John Cena, it really ticks me off in the fact that I know John really well, and I know what a sincerely authentic, good guy John Cena is. I mean, there's nobody in this company or in the entire business anywhere in wrestling that works any harder than John Cena, that tries any harder than John Cena, and that goes out of his way to please the fans and do exactly what they would expect of him or want him to do, like you talk about with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and all of the charitable things that John does, and the appearances and the time he spends, with young people doing things that go above and beyond what he would really have to do in the position that he's in, and then for the people to disrespect him, I think it's a part of a lot of the fans wanting to be a part of the show. They want to think that they're important, which of course they are, but a lot of the guys think it's cool to cheer for the bad, or to be an anti-establishment, to go against the top good guy, so to speak, and in this case, of course, John Cena. They just think that's cool, and to me though, like I said, I hate to see John disrespected, because I know what a good guy and what a talented guy is and how hard he works. And, so it's just one of those things, though, that John has come to grips with. And, hey, he makes no bones about it. He'll acknowledge the "you suck" chants just as much as he will, "let's go Cena." And one way or the other, as long as the fans respond to you, that's all that matters. It's like, whether they cheer you or whether they boo you, it doesn't matter. But if they don't respond to you, that's when you're in trouble. And believe me, there's nobody that people respond to in our company any more than John Cena.
A couple more questions for you, Jerry. I know your time is limited, but Dean Ambrose came out with a hot dog cart and ketchup and mustard. It almost reminded me of when Austin came out with the beer truck and Kurt Angle with the milk truck. It kind of had that feel to it.
Well, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of years and years ago when I was in a match down in Tupelo, Mississippi, with Bill Dundee as my partner against the Hollywood Blondes, and we fought out of the ring all the way back into the concession stand and completely destroyed the concession stand, and mustard and ketchup and candy bars and everything was flying everywhere. And it reminded me of that. It was, a famous match that went down and was seen all over the country, the Tupelo concession stand battle. So, like I said, it was that's what it reminded me of. But a lot of people, of course, had never seen the the Tupelo concession stand battle. So you're right. It did remind you of some of the things that Stone Cold Steve Austin used to do. That was what made Stone Cold the rattlesnake. I mean, he was so unpredictable. You never knew what he was going to do next, and it seemed like every single week something was more outlandish or more outrageous than the week before. And yeah, I mean, I think it would be awesome if Dean Ambrose could step into that kind of a mold. And he came out last week with the I don't know what that green stuff was that sprayed when Seth Rollins opened up the briefcase, and all of a sudden he got a face full of this green slime, and he followed that up with this week the hot dog cart and the mustard and the ketchup. I think it's really smart of Dean Ambrose to I don't know if following the footsteps is the right way to describe it, but certainly if you're gonna look for somebody to emulate or something that you're going to try, you want to try something that was successful in the past, and that certainly worked for Steve Austin, and I think it could work again for Dean Ambrose.
Jerry, I have one more question specifically that I've been wanting to ask you this entire time. Do you finally know the difference between R. Ziggler and Dolph Ziggler?
Between R. Ziggler and Dolph Ziggler.
Yep. If you remember, a few weeks back, there was a tag team match between R. Ziggler, a.k.a. R-Truth, and Dolph Ziggler, and Damien Mizdow, and The Miz, and you guys went back and forth, and you could tell the difference between Miz and Mizdow, but not Ziggler and R. Ziggler. Or maybe it was the other way around.
I think it might have been the other way around.
Yeah,
I'm not
you
sure.
Know Miz and Mizdow, I think.
Yeah, I thought the R. Ziggler was really stretching it as far as pulling off the stunt double.
That just goes back to how much fun it is to watch you guys at this point as a trio, and the three of you just I don't know, the chemistry there is just hysterical to watch at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really fun. It's fun working with both Cole and JBL. I think JBL adds that, that devil's advocate guy out there that me and Cole can both play off of, and it gives us so many more opportunities to do that, to have fun. And JBL, a lot of times, I mean, he will come up with some of the most obscure facts and things, and so dated sometimes. And I mean, he'll go back to making remarks about TV shows or things that happened in the 50s when like 1% of our audience might have been aware of what he's talking about. And it's always fun to call him on things like that. And speaking of Cole and JBL, this Friday night is the 15-year anniversary of SmackDown.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Isn't that amazing?
I
don't know why they didn't. I don't know why they didn't invite me to be on the show. I did SmackDown for the first 5 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was.
I mean, I was the original commentator on SmackDown.
That was you and was that you and Cole that started off the first 5 years? Was that when you guys first teamed up?
Now you're really testing my memory. I don't know if it was actually Cole. I don't know if it was Cole and I that started off. I mean, I know I started. I don't know if Cole was there from the beginning, but I know. I think if you'll remember what happened, then down the road they had that big draft,
right,
and JR got drafted to SmackDown, and Cole got switched to Raw. And man, that really caused some fireworks. That was so awesome. I mean, it was just like. That was like one of the most talked about things ever in the WWE, and it really brought a lot of attention to both shows, both brands.
All right, Jerry, we'll wrap it up. Speaking of Miz and Ziggler, two guys from Cleveland, I'm sure you guys are enjoying the Browns' win on Sunday. But who is the bigger?
My gosh, as soon as I got to the arena last night, the Miz cornered me, and of course, I had to talk about the fact that I was there at the game, and he poor Miz. It's just working out not well for him at all this season, and the fact that they're keeping Miz, he's right in the thick of everything on Raw, and this rivalry with Dolph Ziggler, where they got him on the road, especially every single Sunday, and he's just, it's all I hear every week is, I don't think I'm going to be able to go to any games this season. It's just like, I know it. So, but yeah, we talk. That's the first thing we do is talk talk the Browns every Monday.
Well, Jerry, the Browns and you will be in town on the same day because WB has TLC here in Cleveland in December, and the Browns play the Bengals the same day, so you get to double dip a little bit.
Well, I will definitely be at the Browns game that day, and if the game ends by 4:30, I could still make it to the pay-per-view just in the nick of time. So I'll definitely be at the Browns and Bengals game.
Yeah, we'll give you a ride.
Okay.
All right, Jerry, looking forward to seeing you in December, and thanks so much for coming on, buddy.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, guys. Go Browns.
What a great interview with Jerry the King Lawler, our first guest.
I mean, the King? You have royalty on as your first guest.
You gotta start off with a bang. A guy that loves Cleveland, and a guy that is a fixture on Monday Night Raw for so many years.
I can't remember Monday Night Raw without him. I know it existed, but it's hard to remember it without him.
And you can all relive all the old pay-per-views on the
WWE Network
for $9.99. And it was that is amazing to watch. Network isn't doing too well numbers-wise, I know, and it's ruining the pay-per-view buy rates for the wrestlers and payouts, but for us, the fans, to watch, especially Nitro, it's great.
I don't have to find this stuff on YouTube anymore.
And I promise you, they're not paying us to promote the WWE Network at all. No. This is our own fandom going on right now here.
Yeah, it's the same fanboy.
It's amazing. But we got to thank Jerry the King Lawler for coming on. Every Tuesday, we're going to have our podcast up and running, our show. This is Awesome Wrestling Show. Get used to it. We'll have more wrestlers on, more guys in the business on our show each week. Who's going to be on next week? You never know. Here on the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. Glenn Moore, Steve Guy. Tune in next week. Thanks to Jerry the King Lawler for coming on the show again. And you can hear our show and more. Chad Zumach, Rickonia, all these different guys and shows from Channel 3, Sarah Schuckman, a lot of different shows on CLEsound.com. Follow them on Twitter at CLEsound. You can follow me on Twitter at Glenn Moore CLE. And you?
The Steve Guy.
Not Steve Guy, it's the Steve Guy.
Check it out, because you got to see where I tell jokes, right? No, I don't just love wrestling. I love comedy, too.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, you can follow along with all our shows right here on CLEsound.com.